I've been waiting for like the right week to play that song for like a month. Um, because I ran across it's amazing. I probably spend as much time picking music as I do writing the talk, going through just kind of cruising through YouTube, and I've discovered all kinds of new music that kind of snuck by me over the years. And it's kind of fun. But this song just strikes me because it seems to me that it is much of what we talk about and address here on a week in and week out basis is really about reclaiming our lives, reclaiming ourselves, reclaiming our power, reclaiming our place, and going through this whole internal reset on a day in and day out basis. Because we have the opportunity to write our own song, write our own script, create our own movie, write our own book, however you want to phrase it, right? Whatever metaphor we want to use, we get that opportunity. And sometimes it happens slowly, sometimes it happens quickly. Sometimes it's moving the needle just a little bit today, and sometimes it's making a huge leap today. And it's all about how much we are willing not to commit to anybody else or anything else or something outside of us, but to what we are willing to do in here. What steps am I willing to take on the inside in terms of my relationship with myself, my relationship with whatever I want to name my higher power, life, love, truth, universal mind, universal presence? That relationship is transformative when we allow it to be. When we are vulnerable, not necessarily just with ourselves, but vulnerable with the presence, with whatever we choose to call our God, whatever relationship that is, opening ourselves to that on the inside and opening ourselves to life on the outside. Because I know when I've gone through my challenges, my rough patches, my dark nights of the soul, it took courage to come back out and speak that to the world, to my little circle of friends that I know that I trust and live with day in and day out, the ones that love and support me. Because what I have found is holding that on the inside just allows it to perpetuate. And when I can come out and share my challenges, share my truth, share my pain and my struggles and what I'm working on here, there, and everywhere with the people I know love and support me, that makes it easier. And saying, I'm having a hard time with this, and this is what I'm doing about it. Because trying to handle that on the inside all by myself, because I'm a guy or I'm a person or whoever I am, because I have to be strong, I have to do it all myself. I have to be self-reliant and independent, and all those stories we have told ourselves, or the world has told us about how we have to be all strong and self-reliant and stand on our own 2 feet and pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, or put on the big boy pants or big girl pants or whatever it is. All that nonsense. Sometimes it takes the strength and the power to stand up and ask for help and say, you know what, I'm having a hard time. I just need to talk to somebody. I need to share just a little bit. Marianne Williamson writes, and I'm not sure which book this is, enlightenment is the key to everything. It is the key to intimacy because it is the goal of true authenticity. Enlightenment is the key to authenticity, essentially. And this path of enlightenment, this path of learning and growth that we are on, is about that authenticity and the vulnerability. See, and vulnerability is a step on the road, right, to authenticity. It's a step on getting ourselves into alignment with who and what we are, getting ourselves in alignment with what we are feeling, not necessarily the emotional nature, but that deeper place where we have feeling. We have a sense of our connection to the whole, a sense of our connection to each other, where we can simply allow ourselves to be present for us and present for others, because it's about building community, right? We're not here alone. We are here with each other. And most certainly the things that the person, the individual that we have sovereignty over or responsibility for is us, right? It's us. It is ourselves. I can't fix anybody else. I can be present for, I can support, I can love and care about others, be present with others, but they are not my responsibility per se. I can't fix them. Fundamentally, because if I see them as fixed, that's the problem in the beginning, right? My job is to see them as whole, right? That's what we do for each other. We see each other as whole. Each and every one of us individualized expressions of this presence and power we call God. That is what we're charged with. And we acknowledge that we have struggles. We acknowledge that we have hard times. When we allow ourselves to be, like I said, vulnerable, to be present with our hard times, because sometimes in those dark moments, and I'll speak for myself, sometimes in my dark moments, those have been the sources of the most growth. Because I've come face to face with the challenges to say, you know what? Because I believed that I wasn't good enough for my dad, I believed this, I held on to this, I behaved this way, I acted out to get attention, or I held myself to a much higher standard than I needed to get attention, to feel worthy, to feel loved, and all of that. So when we have these times, when we come face to face with ourselves and say, okay, these are the challenges I had, and this is how I faced it. This is how I moved out of it. Because once I acknowledge it, once I'm in that dark place and I shine light on those challenges, all of a sudden everything changes. Because I've allowed myself to be present with the hard times. Because what I'm after ultimately is what I can call a life worth living, isn't it? And we all have a different vision, a different idea of what that is for us. What is that life worth living for you? And it may be different today than it was 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 20 years ago. I had a vision of a life worth living 20 years ago that is way different than it is now. Way different. My standards and expectations were light years different then than they are now. Because I had bought into a lot of stories and a lot of things that I'd been told that just weren't true. They weren't me, but I thought they were. So what is that life worth living for you now? Is it about things? It can be about things. And what I can tell you about for myself is that life worth living is far more about relationships and about being happy and about being present than it is about anything else. Because those are the things that I really value. The things that are most important to me are the relationships that I'm building and rebuilding, starting with the relationship with me and moving out from there. Because I've discovered, I've remembered, and reaffirmed that caring for me, filling the well here, allows me to support others better, Taking care of me, engaging with me, allows me to love and care for others around me. Finding my own healing allows me to help others in their healing process, to support others in their doing and becoming. Because if I'm not walking my own, if I'm not walking, walking and living the things that I'm talking about here, it's useless. And I do the best I can to do that. Some days I'm better at it than others. And I know the power and I know the presence and I know the value of all these principles we talk about and share about and support each other with each and every week. It's not always easy. It's not always fun. But on the other side of walking through the hard times is joy, is love, is peace, is a sense of happiness, is a sense of gratitude, is a sense of connection with all those things around us. Brene Brown writes this: vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to feeling worthiness. If it doesn't feel vulnerable, the sharing is probably not constructive. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to a feeling of worthiness. Wow. Because if I'm not vulnerable, that means there's a wall. If I'm not vulnerable, that means there's distance between me and you, or me and my source. There's distance between me and God, distance that I have created. And sometimes we create that so that we can feel safe. Sometimes we do that so that we can feel secure. Sometimes we do that because we're not feeling comfortable. And it takes time to step through that. It takes time and attention and love and care of ourselves to drop those boundaries, drop those walls so we can feel vulnerable, so we can feel safe, so we can feel secure. Sometimes maybe it's somebody sitting on the other side of that distance and just kind of knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, I'm over here." I've had friends like that, you know, friends that I know wanted to feel safe, wanted to feel secure, wanted to be more vulnerable. They'd spoken in so many words. And I just sit and be present and smile and be quiet. Knock on the door, knock on the wall just a little bit. "Hey, I'm here. Whenever you're ready, just keep opening the door or keep knocking on the door a little bit." And eventually that vulnerability happens. That feeling of safety and security happens for them and for me. And there's power in that. And we talk about it in terms of power because we feel not necessarily powerful, but we feel empowered, right? We feel loved and supported in becoming more, right? We feel lifted up by the presence. There's an increase in energy, an increase in flow, an increase in awareness of connection to what's going on around us. When we take time to become still, maybe that stillness happens a little quicker because that committee's not rallying around. In the song, remember you're talking about, the words that were just banging around in her brain, right? I've had that experience. I've felt that. It's challenging when that happens. That's like that committee convening in the middle of the night, waking me up and saying, "Ah, all this stuff." No, stop. Time out. You see, we take the time to simply be present. Let's see, what because vulnerability, like I was saying, is about that depth connection with ourselves. leading to authenticity, leading to alignment, leading to a place where we walk through life and I'm not walking around worrying about being discovered. I'm not walking around life worried about being discovered. Like, oh, maybe they're going to know. Maybe they're going to know that I don't feel like I'm enough. Maybe they're going to know that I feel like I'm less than. I remember walking around the world that way. If they only knew that I had doubts and uncertainties, if they only knew all the mistakes I'd made on the way, if they only knew about all the stuff that I've done this here, there, and everywhere along the, all that stuff, all that nonsense, all the stories that we tell ourselves about how we're not enough, and we don't talk about them. And as soon as we just kind of let them go, put them out there where we're appropriate, or we're not, just let them all go, right? Then we're free. We're free to be present. We're free to connect. Free to really engage in a sense of community with each other. So I'm not holding back. Scott Peck writes this: there can be no vulnerability without risk. There can be no community without vulnerability. There can be no peace and ultimately no life without community. See, community. Keep coming back to that. Community, vulnerability, all of this stuff. It's about connection. The title of the talk today, to be more me, right? To be more present, to be more available. You see, when I think about being available, it's not just about being available and being present for others, it's being available for myself as well. To some people, it's like, well, that's all kind of narcissistic and self-centered and all that stuff. No, it's not. It's about taking care, because I have to take care of me. We all have to take care of ourselves, and we take care of each other. We do the things necessary to, eat well, get sleep, exercise, meditate, pray, study, whatever works for you to fill your cup. Go to the mountains and go for a hike, go swimming, just go lay by the pool, lay down for 2 hours and watch a movie. I did that yesterday. That was great. Been a while since I did that because I get busy. I get wrapped up in the busyness of the day, the busyness of life. And I stop and I fail to take care of me. I went to the gym. That's kind of That's kind of automatic for me. But actually sitting down and watching a movie that I really wanted to watch, wow, it was kind of a treat. And it was fun. Yeah, I told you. Yeah, I told you all the story because I remember because I did Monday because I did the whole green envelope thing on my the free TV, right? I got a free 75-inch TV from a friend I was helping move, and so like watching these movies that I've seen before on the 30-inch TV, watching them on the 75, oh my gosh, it's like watching a brand new movie for the first time because it's different. It's not only 75 inch, it's like 4K Ultra, all that stuff that I really don't care about, but now I do because it's kind of fun. But that's it. I've took the time to kind of just to take care of me. And people say, like, watching TV is taking care of me? Yeah, because I don't watch TV all the time. I don't. I mean, sometimes I'll leave it on, just kind of the like white noise, but I don't really watch it. It was one of those things I did for a long time just to get me through the day, leaving sound on when I was by myself. It was a survival mechanism, and then I shut it down because I had to take the time to be vulnerable with myself and have a conversation with the committee in my head that I was trying to drown out with all the white noise, with having the TV on all the time, with having the radio on in the car all the time, with having stuff going on in my ears all the time to drown out the chatter. And so I had to stop and come to terms with all of this, to face all of this, to be vulnerable with me, with all of this, to find a sense of connection and authenticity with the conversations that were going on in my head, with the conversations that were going on in the dark, and shine the light on those things so that I could reemerge with a greater sense of wholeness and celebration about life. To let go and let be. All these things that were going on about how I wasn't enough here and didn't do enough there, all that stuff. So you know what? Each and every one of us on a day-to-day basis, I believe, shows up and does the best we can with who we are. Given the entirety of where we have been up until this moment, we are doing our best. We want to. I believe that to be true about people in general. We do the best we can. And when we want to grow, we do that and just a little bit more. We stretch just a little bit more on a day-to-day basis because that's what it takes, right? To be a little bit better. At the core and center of all of this, at the ground floor of all of this, is the choice we make between fear and love, right? Am I going to walk through this day? Am I going to walk through this day with a sense of fear, or I'm going to walk through this day or this moment with a sense of love? Am I going to walk through this believing I'm separate from my source or connected to my source? How am I doing that? Am I walking through life with God as my partner? Or I'm walking through life going, where the heck is God in all of this? How am I going to do that? And how am I to manage all that? Because sometimes I feel like it's my responsibility to manage the world, right? I've got to manage it all. And that's kind of one of the beautiful things about, about the serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? I can only manage what's in front of me to do. Everything else I've got to let go and let God deal with it. God's got other people to deal with that, right? I can handle what's in front of me to do in my world, in my life. And sometimes I have to let go of some of those things because, like, I don't know what to do. In this moment, I've not got this, so I'm going to turn this one over. Say, God, Spirit, whatever, you need to handle this one because I don't have it at the moment. I'm open to insight. I'm open to inspiration. I'm open to something new here because I don't have it. And so I'm going to turn this one over and stay open. Stay available for an answer. And trust that it will show up for me. To stay open on both sides. Right? Because sometimes we have to just kind of stay open on the input side and, on the source side. It's a flow. It is a flow indeed that I need to be open to on a moment-to-moment basis. Because what we seek is a fuller expression of ourselves, a fuller expression of life, a fuller awareness of what's going on around us, a fuller awareness of the experience of God. And so as we bring this to a close today, let's go to the practice of the principles for this week. So, yeah, I know it's a lot. Joe emailed it back to me. He says, "Man, we got to make this smaller." Um, and that word is soul, not Sue. It's soul. It's supposed to be soul. Um, no spell check in the email. All right, so this is I adapted this from a book called Anam Cara, and I rewrote a poem into an affirmation because I really liked it so much. So I took a little liberty with it. Um, the whole theme today, the whole thing about to be more me, is really to be aware and conscious of the activity of the larger life in, through, and around us. So that's what this is about. So this is an affirmation. I rewrote it as an affirmation. So what I'd like us to do is to for today, read it together, just one time. Are we ready? Okay. I recognize the presence, power, and light of my soul. I realize that I am never alone, that my soul, in its brightness and belonging, connects me intimately with the rhythm of the universe. I have respect for my own individuality and difference. I realize that the shape of my soul is unique, that I have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of my life there is something beautiful, good, and eternal happening. I see myself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees me in every moment. Okay, let's take that inside real quick. And acknowledge that there is this one power and presence, this beauty back of everything that we see. That as we acknowledge the beauty, the love and joy, the magnificence that Spirit expresses as all around us, that same beauty, joy, and magnificence is in us. And so we step forward from here today acknowledging that it is in this presence that we live and move and have our being, and it in us. And that we are grateful for the unfoldment of the expression of the divine all around us. That where once we saw fear, we now see love. Where distress once appeared, there is peace. Where anxiety was, there is now joy. Where there may have been some kind of physical discord, there is now health. And we feel it growing and expanding in us moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought. We turn from where there may have been some kind of dis-ease and affirm life expanding here and now. And so for each and every one of us, I affirm that God is good, life is good, that love and joy are present and ever expanding. That we set aside any doubt, any uncertainty, and embrace a peace that is beyond all understanding. And so in this light, in this love, we celebrate it. We let it be so. And so it is.